Hello, this is Eye on Africa. I'm Yena Lee, and these are your headlines on the continent tonight. Thousands attend a state funeral for former Chadian President Idriss Déby, including French President Emmanuel Macron, who vows to not let anyone threaten the country's stability. Ahead of World Malaria Day, we bring you two reports on the fight against one of the continent's deadliest yet preventable diseases. And stay with us for an update on Africa's Great Green Wall, a plan to plant 8,000 kilometres of trees and vegetation from Senegal all the way to Djibouti. First, let's start in Chad, where a state funeral has taken place for President Idriss Déby. The 68-year-old died just hours after he was projected to win a sixth consecutive term in office. Since his sudden death, a military council headed by his son has taken over. Déby Sr. had been France's staunch ally in the unstable Sahel region. President Emmanuel Macron travelled to N'Djamena for the ceremony and led the tributes for the longtime leader. Jean-Emile Jamin has the story.
Lined along the streets of Chad's capital N'Djamena, they came in their thousands, paying respects to remember Idriss Déby. Also in attendance, President Emmanuel Macron, the head of former colonial power France, flanked by EU Foreign Policy Chief Joseph Borrell and several prominent African leaders, all defying rebel warnings to remember one of the continent's wiliest political survivors. Despite criticism for 30 years of alleged repressive rule, Déby established himself as a key military ally of Western powers in the international fight against Islamist militants. But Chad's future has now been thrown into uncertainty, with his death at the hands of rebels on Monday leaving a potential security vacuum in the country and beyond. The fallen president's 37-year-old son, Mohamed, has currently taken charge through a transitional council, his appointment backed by France and other G5 countries.
La transition aura ce rôle à jouer.
The transitional government will have its role to play for stability, inclusion, dialogue, and a democratic transition. And we will be at your side.
Et serons à vos côtés.
Mohamed has promised to hold elections in 18 months, but opposition leaders have labelled the move as a coup, calling for a period of civil disobedience.
In these troubling circumstances, Chad finds itself in a quasi-political and institutional crisis.
Rebel forces meanwhile said their command center was bombed on Wednesday night in an attempt to kill their own leader. The insurgents have swept from their bases in Libya to just 200 kilometers from Chad's capital, the location of France's counter-terrorism command hub for operations in West Africa. However, the rebels put the fighting to one side on Friday, announcing a temporary ceasefire to allow Déby's funeral to take place.
To Nigeria next, where 3 students who were kidnapped from Greenfield University in Kaduna have been shot dead, according to a local official. Armed men attacked the institution on Tuesday evening. University staff estimate that 20 students and 3 members of staff were kidnapped. It was the 5th known abduction on a school in Nigeria since December. Next to some promising news for the world from Burkina Faso. A new potential malaria vaccine has been tested on 450 children there, and it's proven to be 77% efficient so far. Final trials still have to be carried out, as Lauren Berstecker explains.
A potential breakthrough in the decades-long fight against malaria. A team of Oxford researchers say they've developed a vaccine that could be up to 77% effective against the deadly disease.
77% is the highest yet and could really add to the existing tools that we use to control malaria, meaning bed nets, insecticide spraying, and giving children drugs to kill the malaria parasite.
In the latest trial run, the vaccine was tested on 450 African children during a 1-year period. Oxford scientists now plan to conduct final stage trials involving nearly 5,000 children in 4 African countries. If successful, the vaccine would be the first to meet the requirements of the World Health Organization.
One of the exciting things about this result today is that for the first time, a vaccine has reached the efficacy level that WHO have been looking for. They want a malaria vaccine with 75% or more efficacy by 2030. We think we can do that.
Malaria kills more than 400,000 people a year, most of them African children, making it one of the continent's deadliest diseases. For years, it's remained a puzzle for scientists trying to find a cure, with the only approved vaccine to date showing only 55% efficacy. And while it's now considered a treatable illness, those who need it most are often unable to afford medication.
From one potential breakthrough to another, Antoinette Ntumba is a researcher in Cameroon, and she's been working on an organic pesticide to stamp out malaria. Last year, UNESCO recognized her as one of the top 20 female scientists on the continent. Regina Sondo went to meet with her and find out more about her natural cure.
In the bush outside of Douala, Antoinette Ntumba collects material for her research into substances that kill the larvae of mosquitoes that carry malaria. She's invented a groundbreaking larvicide made from a secret selection of plants. She's been working on the organic pesticide for the last 7 years.
I'm just harvesting these herbs.
Today, she shows us only one of the leaves she uses in her work, the guava leaf. The scientist says that her work offers a unique solution to the problem of mosquitoes' increasing resistance to chemical pesticides.
What we are proposing today is innovation, because we're using plants and not only just one. What we're proposing will increase mosquitoes' resistance to pesticides and create a natural, cheap product.
Her natural insecticide is also cheaper than many alternatives. It's produced in a laboratory at the University of Douala. It takes hours of testing and observing to produce the solution, which will be used at mosquito breeding sites.
This product is very effective. We're already using it in our neighborhoods and our houses. For it to be used on a large scale, we need a well-conceived and structured protocol.
To commemorate the World Malaria Day, Antoinette organizes an event to talk about the challenges in controlling the spread of malaria in Cameroon by targeting insect carriers of the disease.
The challenges are enormous. At times, laboratories are not well equipped. At times, we face difficulties in being selected. This symposium will allow us to exchange ideas and see what has been done, what will be done, and what can be done for us to continue the anti-vector fight.
About 4,000 malaria deaths are reported in Cameroon yearly. In 2020, UNESCO and the L'Oreal Foundation named Antoinette Ntumba as one of 20 African female scientists being recognized for their work. She hopes to make a significant contribution to efforts to eradicate malaria in the areas worst affected by the disease.
In Kenya, a wildlife sanctuary has announced the creation of 4 new rhino embryos, northern white rhino embryos to be exact. This brings the total to 9. Conservationists plan to inseminate female rhinos to save the species. The last male of its kind died in 2018. And US President Joe Biden invited 40 world leaders to a virtual climate summit on Friday. Several African leaders clicked in, including Nigeria's Muhammadu Buhari and Kenya's Uhuru Kenyatta. Each president touted their country's innovative solutions to replace fossil fuels and also made pledges for the future.
Ladies and gentlemen, climate change is no longer a future crisis, but rather a present one. We commit to continue to reduce our emissions by 32% by the year 2030. Kenya intends to complete its transition to renewable energy, and clean energy already accounts for about 90% of total electricity supply in Kenya, and we intend to increase this to 100% by the year 2030.
And finally, to an initiative to restore land along the southern edge of the Sahara Desert. The Great Green Wall project was launched back in 2007. The goal was to plant trees and plants from East to West Africa. More than a decade later, it's far from finished. Earlier this month, several key donors injected more money into the proposal, giving organisers a much-needed boost. Mario Sophos has the story.
Arid terrain and dried-out trees. This Senegalese land is part of the African continent's so-called Great Green Wall, an initiative launched 13 years ago to tackle increasing desertification. Seen here, thousands of dead acacia plants that were meant to form part of the Great Green Wall. The problem, not enough water due to lack of funds. Just one example of how the project has been mismanaged. The ambition of the plan cannot, however, be understated. It was launched in 2007 by several African nations, the idea being to plant an 8,000-kilometre band of trees stretching across 11 countries, from Senegal to Djibouti. The project is supported and financed in part by the World Bank, the United Nations and the European Union. To date, though, less than 4% of the objectives have been achieved. Yet in Senegal, it appears as though new life is being breathed into the project. Haider El Ali is an ecologist, former Senegalese environment minister, and nearly 2 years ago became director of Senegal's contribution to the Great Green Wall initiative. In light of the failure of his predecessors, he's decided to take a more straightforward approach, starting with water.
Sur le terrain, les graines ne poussent pas. Donc pour nous, il faut commencer par l'eau. Et d'ailleurs, je crois que c'est un des échecs de cette première mission. Partout où je suis allé, les taux de reprise de la reforestation sont très bas. Hein.
In just a matter of months, though, newly installed boreholes have brought nature back to the land. Oryxes have even been reintroduced here and have started reproducing.
C'est un très bon signe. Il y a la vie, quoi. La vie reprend ses droits.
Another error of the past, according to the director, was not involving local populations in the project. He's encouraging residents to take part.
Mais si biir 10 ans bu booraan bi ñu moom mi fi doog di ñëw tey su miraay vert tey pour jox ñu ay garab ay pour ñu ji ko wax dëgg yàlla maa ngi koy doog di gis.
The wheels are starting to turn, but the project is still greatly lacking in funds. Though billions of euros have been dedicated to it, the money is yet to achieve the objectives of the Great Green Wall.
That's it from the Iron Africa team. Julia Kim is up next with more international news.